It is now the 6 o'clock hour. The City of Oak Harbor's Planning Commission regular meeting, July 27, 2021, and it's 6 p.m. This meeting may be viewed live via YouTube. To leave a public comment that will be made part of the meeting record, please call and leave a message at 360-279-4512. Once again, the number is 360-279-4512. The first item on the agenda this evening is roll call, and let the record show that the only commissioner absent this evening is Commissioner Schott. The second item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the May 25, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the May 25th, 2021 regular business meeting.
A second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Seeing that there is no one in the room here to make public comment, we will skip item 3, which says that you have a right to make any comment other than what's on the agenda. Item 4 this evening is our public meetings and hearings, and the first item on the agenda for that is horizontal mixed use, and this will be a public hearing brought to us by Ray Lindenberg, Associate Planner Ray, and I will open this public hearing now, consider it opened, and now Ray can take it away. And my understanding is that we will probably have a continuance on this to the next month's meeting. Ray?
That is correct. Thank you. Ray Lindenberg, Associate Planner. We will be continuing this to next month, where we will have a draft of the ordinance for you to review and comment on. And we just did not have everything put together in a polished state like we would want you to see, so that we'll see you next month on that. And you did open the public hearing, so we'll continue that to the next month, and we'll have the discussion then.
Thank you, Ray. The next item is the CBD zoning code discussion, and this is a public meeting also brought to us by Associate Planner Ray Lindenberg. Ray?
Thank you. I'm going to be sharing a brief presentation with you regarding this, and I know this will be some new information for our new planning commissioners, but I'm going to touch on some things briefly. If there are any questions or anything, please do let me know. And I'm going to start sharing the screen now, so let me go ahead with that. Can you all see the presentation there? Okay, so what we have is the background and the original process on this. We had a text amendment that clarified and simplified some of the CBD, Central Business District zoning regulations. That was based on some projects that had come through, some proposals that had come through, a related court decision, the design guidelines review that was previous to that, and then a moratorium that came and went during that time period of 2020 or so. We had changes that were approved by the City Council in January of this year, and we had the intent of those changes were fourfold, essentially. We wanted to clarify some language. We had some competing interpretations and confusion based on what was in the code. We had community desires, what was wanted by the community within the CBD. We had a definition issue of principal versus accessory permitted uses. That led to some confusion and some problems with the administration of the code. And then we had a lack of dimensional standards that caused situations where properties could be, boundary lines could be adjusted and properties could be created that created issues for the administration of the code, how we want things to lay out, what is frontage along Pioneer Way, et cetera. And so what happened is we got that code approved in January, like I mentioned. The approved code language, the intent of those changes were achieved. The key points that were of concern for development applications were adjusted. There were some minor changes that did not make the final draft, and that was staff's fault. And we are here to try and fix that and ask for your forgiveness. All the presentations that we made to the Planning Commission and the City Council included the elements that were intended to be in the code, but unfortunately did not make it to the approved version of the code. And so what I provided for you was two copies of the code, the approved version that was approved by the City Council in January, and what we consider to be the intended version, which is what was presented to the Planning Commission and the City Council. And you'll notice that there are a few changes, and those changes are highlighted. If you have your copy through PDF, you should be able to see the bright yellow highlighted changes there. There are not a lot of them, but they are fairly significant in that they do have, some old references to a design review committee that doesn't exist, and a couple of dimensional standards, and some of that principal versus accessory use information that we talked about. It is important to note that those changes are minor, but they don't change the intent of the district or significantly alter the regulations. We want to answer any questions or concerns that you might have with regards to these changes. Like I said, I don't feel like they're huge, earth-shattering changes, but we do want to be available to answer any questions you have. And then what we'll do is make a formal presentation to the Planning Commission and the City Council upcoming, and get the intended code approved to resolve those mistakes that were made previously. So that is the extent of my presentation, and I do want to answer any questions for you if you do have any questions or concerns based on the two versions of the code that we provided for you tonight.
Commissioners, any questions for Ray? I see no one's jumping on questions for you, Ray.
I'm glad to hear that.
Well, thank you, Ray, for that. Now we'll get on to the next item, which is brought to us by Senior Planner Kat Kamak, the CIP updates, and this is also a public meeting. Kak?
Yes, good evening. Sorry for the delay. Kat Kamak, Senior Planner. I hope you can hear me. Here to present the capital improvements plan, at least to get that discussion started. So just as a overview, the capital improvements plan is part of what we do every year, update the 6-year plan and the projects. And we have a process designed to look at it, and we are beginning that review process this year. What we do is we look mid-year at all the projects that we're working on, see where we are, and make adjustments in schedules and so on, moving ahead. And every year we add 1 year to our plan because it's a moving 6-year window. And so when we add the 6th year, we have to move projects around to meet our schedules. And sometimes we consider new projects to be added, to be considered as well based on council decisions and so on. So what I will do is I have a short presentation to go over the basic structure of the CIP, and then we'll open it up to questions. Let me see if I can get to sharing my screen. Right. Can you see that? Okay, I'll take that for yes. All right. So this is the current capital improvements plan 21 to 27. and I'll just go through the slides here. So this is basically the structure of the comprehensive plan. So we have all the elements of the comprehensive plan here, and then plan implementation is the kind of functional plans, our transportation plan, a water plan, sewer plan, regulations, development regulations, shoreline master program. We have our capital plans, which is what we're talking about, the capital improvements plan. And then we also have the transportation improvements plan. And then we have sub-area plans and other studies that also are related to the comprehensive plan. These are color-coded, just this light yellow here is mandated by GMA, so we update these in accordance with GMA. These dark yellow elements are specifically for Oak Harbor, and so they have some very specific guidelines and policy. And here we have the blue colored are required, again, by GMA to have, for a planned community to have these documents. And then these green documents are very community-specific, community-driven interest plans for specific areas. So we're talking about the capital improvements plan and updating that. So what gets into a capital improvements plan? So the threshold to make it into the CIP is that a project or a facility should be greater than 50,000, involves the expenditure of public funds, and has a life expectancy of 20 years. We also can have maintenance projects in our capital improvements plan, and they have the same qualifications, so criteria greater than 50,000, and here a life extension of 10 years. So the capital improvements plan has some basic goals, and that is to provide adequate facilities and services for existing and future populations, to select projects in accordance with policies and priorities, to be able to finance projects in an economic, efficient, and equitable manner, and cost-effective services within the city and with annexations. So those are some of the goals for directing our plan. These are the revenue sources. So some of this information is in the capital improvements plan. The link to this document has been provided in your packet, so you can go and explore those. This is just kind of a summary of it. So we have general revenue funds, the general taxes that comes from sales tax and other shared revenues, licenses and permit fees. They all go into the general fund, and that funds our projects. We also have special revenue, motor fuel tax as part of that, lodging tax, impact fees. And then we have debt service grants, and then we are solid waste and sewer systems are enterprise funds in the sense that they fund themselves, and so they are called enterprise funds. And then we also have user fees coming into the revenue. So the CIP document, this is kind of the basic structure of it. If you explore that, it'll have the policies we talked about. It has an inventory of facilities, level of services that we're trying to keep and maintain, and then the facilities plans and the needs, and then future revenue projections. So what we'll be focusing on this year and what you may be interested in is the tables that are in the capital improvements plan. And they're broken down into various funds like in streets, parks and recreation, water system, and so on. So these projects are listed here because they meet the criteria of greater than 50,000. Now there are other projects that are capital projects, so to speak, that are less than 50,000 that are in the budget. It's just not listed here in the capital improvements plan. So that's kind of the basic structure of the capital improvements plan. And what we wanted to do is just kind of show you the basic structure and get you familiar with the document. We have started discussions with the various departments to evaluate where the projects are and what's the status of all these projects. So we are in the process of doing that, and we will have more information for the Planning Commission at the next meeting, and we'll hopefully start to talk about some of these tables and some of the projects that are floating up to the top to be included maybe into the CIP moving forward. So with that, I will turn it back to the Planning Commission for questions and comments.
Thank you, CAC. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Kind of a silent group tonight. CAC, I guess there's no real concern at this point. Probably when we get into it a little bit more, we'll have some specific questions for you.
Absolutely, we'll bring some projects. I know there are some projects that are floating around that have already been discussed at the beginning of the year in terms of inclusion. We're just trying to compile all the information from the various departments and get that information together before we bring it forward. So we'll definitely have some project suggestions at the next meeting.
Very good, CAC. Thank you. That concludes the printed agenda for this evening. Now I have a write-in here about the carrying on a discussion about training for all of us, I guess, and just kind of like a round table just to talk about it and see what kind of thoughts that you commissioners have about that issue. So I'm going to open it up for anyone to kind of start in. Maybe Bruce, because you've gone to many training sessions along with myself.
Yeah, I think this, right after David first came on, we had stopped having our discussion. And one of the things I brought up was, training itself. Public Meetings Act records and things like that are very important, meeting and talking about something that's, we're not supposed to be doing that. And we've been going through a number of staff over the last year and a half, 2 years, but the training has seemed to have stopped for no real good reason other than just, things have just changed. So I think it's important that, we get back to that, even if staff just provides either, have the city attorney discuss those points about what we're allowed to talk about when we're traveling in groups, what is not allowed to be discussed and things of that nature. I think it's very important because, we are appointed officials of the city, and what we say does matter, and if we say something when we're not supposed to, it can get us all in a bunch of trouble, and we want to stay out of trouble. So,
Sarah, we used to have occasionally in the area, Skagit Valley, even Bellingham, that they offered some of these kinds of seminars that were, I don't know how, I don't know if there was a lot of expense, but some expense, I suspect, and that all we needed to do was sign up to do that. And, no offense to anybody that's newer on the commission, but, I've been doing this a lot of years, and I still can use a refresher about, how to conduct myself when you're talking about things, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't have as much of a issue with quasi-judicial, because I believe now that a lot of that's been taken out of our hands and goes to the hearing examiner. So that helps us a lot, because in the past that could get pretty touchy, because we're a small community and all of us have various and sundry different relationships and know different people. So, but I would like to see that happen if that's still available, Sarah, to offer it to us. I'd be more than happy to make the trip with others.
Well, I know one of the things that, we've been to Anacortes, we've been to Stanwood, for these various trainings, in the afternoon, off days, things of this nature, but, it was, various cities, I mean, 5 or 6 different cities would actually, attend those conferences, and, they're just a couple, 3 hours, but it was very valuable, and you get to meet other, people that do our job. Sometimes it's even city council, individuals. But it did go a long way to emphasize what was important, and what things we should know, and even if for somebody that's moving on up the ladder. So it could be beneficial, I think.
Yep, Mr. Chair. If I may add, I think that's a very valid point, and I think the short course on local planning is still being offered, I think, by Department of Commerce. And with COVID, I'm not sure if they travel around as much as they used to, but they still offer those trainings, whether online or they will come to various communities. But with the turnover that we experience with these types of groups, it's valuable to have some of the topics that we talk about discussed in more detail and in a sense, in a training session by staff. There's a variety of different topics that we can go with from top down, basically. It depends on how detailed we want to be, but we could talk about growth management. I know your fellow Commissioner, Sarah Schott, has mentioned a few. Municipal broadband planning is going to be a hot topic for us. Stormwater retention, diversion, alternative systems, affordable housing. We can get into a little bit more detail with that. Another one she mentions too is risk management for climate change and sea level rise. We kind of touched that aspect a little bit in the Shoreline Master Program discussions. And she also has innovative citizen engagement techniques for planning. So there are a variety of topics that we could bring forth to you folks and help, at least with the knowledge base of some of the things and some of the terms that we deal with on a regular basis. So I think it's, I would think it would be valuable for the Planning Commission to look at this.
I don't know if it was mentioned in that, in just discussion items, but, even the capital improvement projects, a lot of people that's been on this panel before, don't understand why it's been on a list for 7, 8, 10 years, and why does it continue to go year after year? And just a lot of people just don't know. Those of us that's been through it a number of years do know, but we're a select few. So I think something like that's very important as well.
Well, it's always difficult to bring people up to speed that are newer, because you can't assume that anybody knows anything necessarily. And because of the, comings and goings of the commissioners, through no fault of their own, things fall through the cracks that they may not even know to ask about, if you would. So I think that maybe in-house we could do a little better job probably of, I know COVID in the last year and a half is kind of, that's a one-off kind of deal. So I can't remember why we stopped doing the pre-meeting. We used to do that pre-meeting, and then I know it was open to the public, but it wasn't of public record, I guess.
I'm not sure.
We stopped doing that for COVID, right?
Yeah, I think that was
At the same time Dave left.
big reason why we discontinued that, and we just haven't picked that back up, and I don't know if that's foreseen in David Kuhl's plan or not for that pre-meeting discussion. CAC, do you have anything to add on that? But I think that was a result of the COVID issue.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Yes, I think it was due to the COVID changes that we moved away from those pre-meetings because it was difficult to have that open to the public because we were doing the Ring Central meeting. So we didn't want to, again, going back to some of those legal requirements for those Public Meetings Act, right? We can't meet as a commission or the Open Meetings Act, meet as a commission without having it being open to the public. So for the COVID time, we collapsed that into the meeting, and I think it was one of the items that has been added at the very end of the agenda, like a director's report. And we were trying to capture a lot of that information that was usually done in this pre-meeting during this meeting and the agenda. So that's the idea, I think, kind of moving forward. Since David's not here, since the director's not here, we don't have a director's report on this agenda. But we will likely see that be consistent on the agenda and share information in that way.
So I would encourage the planning commissioner, if there's anything in your reading materials that kind of lights that light bulb as to, you know, well, I don't quite understand all the steps of this topic, bring that forth to us. Email David, and we'll put that on a potential training session for you folks.
To your knowledge, Dennis, are we still, when a new commissioner is appointed and comes on board, does the director sit down with that individual and go through any kind of agendas? This is what it's all about. Here's your big book.
Yeah.
We're getting away from the big book, so obviously.
I wish they could answer that, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
I know that at least for myself, being new on the commission, it was pretty much take 2 quick courses, the Association of Washington Cities, regarding public records and things like that. But aside from that, it's kind of, you're here. You know, we see these long documents, and let's be honest, they're not the most riveting documents in the world. It would be definitely nice to have somebody that you could talk to learn a little bit more about these sort of things besides just your own reading.
And Dennis, were you suggesting maybe some sort of training sessions done with staff here? Is that kind of where we're going?
I think so. That would be part of a regular meeting, probably not every month. I don't know what time frame David is thinking about, but yes, it would be conducted in most part by staff. I'm sure as part of our presentation on whatever topic that may be, we would provide links to the, you know, other places of information that you could delve down deeper if you wanted to, probably state agency relation. But yes, I think it would be staff-driven.
I like that idea very much.
Any other comments, commissioners? Any other ideas?
I will say, just as a compliment to the staff here in the city, when I have had questions, because I do try to ask them when I can over email, they've always been very good about getting back to me and explaining them to me. But at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. So it is good.
Brian, that's exactly my point. You don't even know what you need to know sometimes. Or like Dennis said, sometimes a light bulb will come on because, well, I don't know about, you know, in this context. And there's no stupid questions, for sure. Just the ones we don't ask, I think. So, Any other discussion this evening, or Eric, Christie?
No, I'm all in favor of extra training.
Could it be done like a workshop? I mean, could there ever be like a once a quarter, like a 2 or 3 hour? I know we don't necessarily want to sit for that long, but it's training that we need. Could be done like in a workshop format?
I don't think there's any format that would be out of the window at this point in time. It's certainly, you know, it's possible we could delve down really deep into one item like affordable housing. That could be a couple hours, or maybe we can handle a couple of them in a workshop setting. But yeah, I think that option's available.
Any other comments, questions?
But the last comment I have is to anybody that's part of the commission, whenever a staff report is talking about a subsection or something that they're amending, I don't know about you, but I know I've got it on my computer to where I've got the municipal code. I can go back and read what it said and why the changes are there, and that really helps you understand what's going on. You know, it's just like, you know, with the various items that we discuss now. You know, the CIP just happens to be the topic this time, but there's a myriad of different things, and to understand where it's coming from, you need to read the municipal code to find out. And I can't encourage that enough. And sometimes, you know, it's hours, but I mean, it helps you to to come to the meeting prepared. And that's what it's all about. Thank you.
If I may, I was reading over the CIP plan. Could I just ask CAC one question about the CIP plan? Would that be okay? In looking at the service standards for traffic, how often is that report done? I see 2015, these numbers are based on the 2015 report. How often is there a revision of that plan and looking over that?
The transportation plan, I think, Dennis, remind me, was updated, I think in 2015 or 2016, and it's updated every 7 years, I believe, 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, that's about the time frame that we like to look at refreshing those plans. So we're actually getting up to that window where we're going to start looking at that again.
I know 2 or 3 years ago, we had some talk about Midway and doing some bike lanes and traffic calming, and I don't know where that ever went, but there was discussion about that for sure.
Yeah, so our streets CIP actually does have the Midway Boulevard on there as a project. It's just out, I think, in 2025 or 2026. And you bring up a very good point. We are working with the state to try and get the grant dollars obligated for an active transportation plan for the city. And an active transportation plan is basically trying to use the existing right-of-way to accommodate various modes of transportation. And what it'll allow us to do is to look at various options for restriping right-of-way within the city to accommodate bike paths and pedestrian crossings, etc. So hopefully we'll have that plan done, maybe even before we take on the Midway Boulevard project down the road, and we'll have better information to do some of the things that you just mentioned.
That help you, Brian? Yep. Okay. Any other comments? That being that, I guess we will close our discussion, and I'll remind everyone that our next meeting is August 24. That would be the fourth Tuesday in August, 2021, of course. With that, I call the meeting adjourned.